We're talking Hawks, Celtics, but predominantly we're talking Trae Young because, guys, I hate to inform all the Hawks fans out there, but your team is down 2-0, and you guys look like the JV squad going up against, the junior college that's just trying to get, warmed up for their real season because the Celtics are punking the Hawks.
Oh yeah, those bleeding heart Hawks fans, wherever they are.
They exist. There's dozens of them. I think I'm sure there's a Facebook message board from 10 years ago where you could find Hawks fans.
Right.
Okay. Any impressions on this series outside of the Celtics look real fucking good and the Hawks look like they were a 500 team that eked into the playoffs?
I
Man,
just wish the Hawks had any idea what the hell they wanted to do with this basketball team. That's all. Like I'm okay with you losing as long as I see the vision. I don't see the vision here. I
yeah.
don't. I really don't.
Nevin, you'll remember, I thought that the DeJounte Murray trade was a big mistake from the beginning, personally, because Young is this heliocentric ball handler. He doesn't really do that much when he doesn't have the ball. It was discussed that he would work off ball more. He said, I used to be an off ball player. I can do it again, whatever. We definitely didn't see that. And Murray doesn't really offer anything when Young has the ball. I saw people say, like, oh, we'll get creative. Murray can be a cutter. It's like, not with Capella in the dunker spot, really, right? Like, he's only cutting into space that's occupied by a big. It's not really all that effective. It's certainly not as effective as just pairing Trae Young with a guy that can shoot. That would be better. Like, I'm a fan of simple solutions. I thought that getting Murray to cover for Young's defense was a complex solution, and it's playing out exactly the way I thought it would. And I think that's why they don't have an identity, because all those two guys can do is your turn, my turn.
Pretty
Yeah.
much.
So here's something that's funny about their season. Is if I told you at the beginning of the season that DeJounte Murray was going to shoot 3-pointers better than Trae Young this season, you'd be like, oh shit, the Hawks are going to be sick. And guess what? That fucking happened. True. Just Trae Young hit 33.5% of his threes. And DeJounte Murray hit 34.4%. Right? Like that, I think when you look at how their seasons played out, John Collins, who's for his career been a pretty solid 3-point shooter, nothing special, but league average ish to better sometimes. He shot 29.2%. His role in the offense has continuously been relegated. He's a very good lob catcher, very good pick and roll finisher.
I have pulled my hair out trying to figure out over the last 4 years why they refuse to use him.
Because they have Clint Capella, and John Collins can at least theoretically shoot from distance, and Clint Capella cannot theoretically do anything but catch lobs. And also, in Capella's defense, he's also exceptional at catching lobs. So it's kind of one of those things where they should have traded Collins, right?
And I was going to get to that next. So you mean the last 3 years when you were clearly trying to trade him, you couldn't get it done and make your team better as a result?
So I've actually written about this, and my basic premise was John Collins showed enough before Capella got there.
He did.
That you would be like, we deserve a good return, considering the contract he's on with the way salaries have gone, the way the salary cap is going, is a good contract. That you'd be like, we want a lot in return. But on the flip side, every team's going to go, hey, well, here's the thing. This dude's coming off a season where he's averaging 14 points, right?
Exactly.
And so they kind of got in the situation where we know the talent is better than the production, and every team's like, well, the production is the fucking production, and we're not gonna overpay for that.
Exactly.
Congratulations, you played yourself.
You signed a guy to a contract and then proceeded to acquire more guys who just take shots away from him.
It's been bad. All right, so the Hawks, though, we were talking about their direction as a franchise. They did get Quinn Snyder. They got rid of Nate McMillan, who I don't think is a very big picture, organizational philosophy type of coach. I think he can come in and do a good job. I think there might be a shelf life on his brand of coaching. And that's kind of what we've seen in most of his stops. But they bring in Quentin Snyder. And my understanding is they got him in coaching this season. So he could say, so they could be like, hey, Quinn, who are we taking a hatchet to? And if I was Quinn Snyder, I'd be like, a lot of these dudes. Even though they just fucking extended, which I don't understand why, but they just extended Bogdan Bogdanovic, who
I don't understand that at
Yeah,
all.
that was very puzzling.
he's
Very
30. He
puzzling.
can't stay healthy. He's good when he's healthy, but like he's not a defensive guy. If like a guy that's a guard can't play defense, it's really hard to play him next to Trae Young and like not be like, okay, guys, like can we score 128 points per 100 possessions? Because we
Dude,
know we're giving up 130.
Yeah.
me and
It's
James have had this Hawk conversation a million times.
Yep. Yeah, we talked about John Collins a lot, man, because man, that one season Collins was crazy efficient, like 50, 40, 85 shooting, like 95th percentile as a lob
Guess
threat
who was hurt
and
though? Guess who was hurt?
Capella.
Dude, Trae Young was hurt.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, they should have traded him because I understand like if you're going to work with Trae Young, you want to have an elite pick and roll big next to him. And you also want that big to be a rim protector. So Capella, I think, is an even better fit than Collins. As great as Collins is in the pick and roll, Capella's probably a little better. And you get that rim protection. So I get that, but that's why you trade Collins. Like you trade Collins for like ideally for like a Cam Johnson or a like prime Jay Crowder type, in my opinion. That's the guy they would have wanted at the four.
I think a Cam Johnson type would be perfect on this team,
Yeah,
actually.
man.
actually, I mean, I agree that like offensively, Cam Johnson's a perfect type. But if I'm in the Trae Young business, I'm going defense over offense. Pretty
I mean,
all my front
yeah,
court guys, on all the front court guys, because you just
Cam is a
know.
solid defender, though. Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, but like,
He's solid.
I view
yeah.
Jay Crowder as being like an upgrade defensively. That's right. So if
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah,
prime
yeah,
Jay Crowder versus prime Cam Johnson, I'm going prime.
No, I
Jay
did. I
Like
totally
that.
get what you mean. I
yeah.
totally
I
get what
agree.
you mean.
You know, because Trae Young, I don't know if you've watched him play defense, but I don't know if he's seen himself ever actually play defense in the NBA.
Well, he can't. Like he can't play defense. That's the actual problem here. It isn't that he doesn't want. He physically cannot play defense.
Yeah, it's also one of those things where like because he can't play defense, he doesn't give
Yeah.
full effort because it's
yeah,
like,
exactly.
why am I fighting over this screen? Like,
Yep.
look, it's like, dude, because you have to, because just being there lowers the field goal percentage by like
Exactly.
2%, even if you're not doing shit, and that 2% matters. And like,
How much does it really matter when
when I'm just
I'll get a bucket on the other end? I think that's the mentality to an extent, right?
Like he's got just the worst shot selection I've seen in fucking years.
Okay, well, actually, let's make this conversation about Trae Young completely. Obviously, the DeJounte Murray thing hasn't worked out. I think we all could have seen that kind of coming. Murray and Young the season before they became teammates, both were like in the top 10 in total pick and rolls run, right? You can't, there's a finite amount of pick and rolls you can run. They can't break the top 10, right? You obviously are going to want Trae Young to run more. He's better at it than DeJounte Murray. But that means DeJounte Murray's offense isn't that valuable, which means he's then not an all-star, which means why the fuck did you give up all that shit for him? Anyways,
Yeah.
it is the list of what the fuck were you thinking? The Hawks, the long lineage of acquiring players to solve the Trae Young problem that also, but while acquiring them makes them less good or makes someone else less good because they don't actually all fit together.
I mean, this is the same franchise that thought they were going to somehow make Josh Smith a franchise. This is that same organization.
It's called being light years behind. Anyways, anyways, Trae Young. Do you guys think Trae Young is worth? Do you think the offense? Because I think the offense is really top notch.
No, I don't.
Is he worth building around? You don't think the
No.
offense is top notch?
No, I don't.
Well, I mean, all the metrics suggest that Trae Young, even when he's shooting like 33.5% on threes, is a very, very, very impactful offensive player through the playmaking and the free throw generation.
No, I don't. and I'm not even saying I don't like agree with what the numbers are. Just like I watch these games and I watch for the equal amount of spectacular offensive play that you see him make, pass or shoot or whatever. there's so many moments in the game where you're just like, if you just tried here, if you just maybe ran off the ball and like you shoot 48% spot like catch and shoot, but you refuse to do it for some odd reason. And all this like off the dribble, pulling up from three, going 2 for 10 from three, when like if you worked off the ball, you would help yourself and you'd help the team. That's why I don't we everybody talks about basketball IQ, but like a part of basketball IQ is like knowing what works for the unit, like knowing like against your better or worse judgment or personal like whatever you like getting your stuff. I just don't think he has that. He doesn't have the LeBron. He doesn't have the thing that said maybe my team needs me to do this right now and not this over here. Like I don't think he has it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I guess.
I agree, man. I agree. Let me say this too. Like, first of all, I don't much like heliocentric basketball in general, right? I don't love this idea of like we'll just have this dude rack up 30 and 15 every goddamn night and just like carry the offense and like because I just think that it's got a diminishing return. The deeper you advance in the playoffs, the less likely that is to be the style that wins out. But there are guys who you'll do it for because they're that special. But I think that because it's
I was about to say, but go ahead.
yeah, because where it's a suboptimal style, you only want to do it if you got a guy who it's like, okay, he's so good that we'll do it for him. I'm thinking prime Harden and probably even Luka, right? Like Luka is so special offensively that maybe you just if he's on your team, you have to deal with it. Also, both those guys are big bodies, so as much as neither of them are good defenders, you can at least, Nevin, we were talking about this before we started recording, you can at least hide them. There's at least something you can do with James Harden. Like the Rockets always had Harden guard the low block, and then they put out this myth of like, well, Harden's actually an excellent post defender. It's like that doesn't matter. Nobody's posting up anyway. They're hiding him, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah, but at least you can hide him in a place where he's not going to get found out, right? Like I think that's all that matters. It's like, is the hiding place effective? Like Luka is the same thing. It's like I hear people like be like, oh, well, Luka's not good at defense. I'm like, yeah, he's not good at defense, but like he's 6'8" and he could stand to lose a few LBS, right? Like you can put him on a big guy and he's not gonna get punked. Well, if you put Trae Young on like even the worst offensive power forward, it's not going to end well for anyone because, well, guess what? Like offensive rebounds, just I can literally like move you so as I get rim pressure. It's
right.
It's tough. I mean, here's the thing though with Trae Young, is that I think he's kind of a misunderstood player in terms of like the general perception. He kind of when he entered the league, there's a lot of this like, oh, he's like Steph Curry because he takes these deep threes. His game isn't about like he does have massive 3-point volume, but the efficiency is not special.
I mean, but I also think he slightly did that to himself. I think he slightly did that to himself.
Yeah, and there's also I think there is like a little bit of the like people do like to make player comps where the skin tones line up pretty quickly.
Yeah,
there's a little bit
does
of
tend
that.
to be a thing.
You're not wrong.
Look, here's the thing. I play pickup, and if I'm playing, I'm always compared to some like shitty former white player. I'm just like, okay, like I get it, but like my game is not exactly like, oh, Kyle Korver. I'm like, have you seen me hit a 3 yet? No, stop calling me Kyle Korver. What the fuck is going on?
Oh shit.
Yeah, but Trae Young's a great passer. He's a great playmaker, and he's a great pick and roll passer. And like, he has led offenses that have been top 5 offenses like consistently throughout his career. So the question is, if you guys don't want to build around Trae Young, which I wouldn't either, because I fucking would never want to play with that guy. I can't stand the type of player that just gets all the credit, does everything on offense. Whenever he passes it, you're expected to shoot. There's no creativity for anyone else. And then on defense, he's like, hey, can you pick up the slack? It's like, wow, like how could we have like the world's worst boss? Like that's kind of like what I feel like playing with Trae Young is like. It's just like you have a really shitty.
You're not
boss.
even wrong.
He's going to get credit for everything and all of his mistakes you have to deal with, and
that's why he's such a hard player to talk about. because you know the offensive skill is there, but it's just like, but there's so many little annoying things about his game that just like are cumulative, and it just like it's frustrating as hell to talk about him.
Yes. So I guess the question is this: I wouldn't want to build around him.
No.
Okay, you don't want to build around him. James,
Yeah.
you don't want to build around him.
No.
Do you think the Hawks should build around him though?
Let me say this, man. If I'm a general manager of an NBA team and Adam Silver announces that we're redrafting the whole league, right? This is a hypothetical that I like sometimes to put things in context.
Yeah.
He's on my do not draft list. Like if the best players available are Trae Young and OG Anunoby, I am walking up to the podium and selecting OG Anunoby. You know what I mean? Like yeah, like I don't want Trae Young on my team, man. So I mean that answers the question, I think.
Okay. So I kind of agree. I don't know. Here's the thing. I'm enough of a believer in, hey, having a guy that almost certainly guarantees a top 10 offense. There is tremendous value in that. I'm a GM. I'm trying to keep my job. Maybe I can figure shit out because my best player is OG Anunoby. Guess what? I'm not having. I'm not having a top 10 offense, and I'm probably not having a top 10 defense unless everyone.
No, you're gonna be atrocious. But
so while I appreciate the metaphor, and I might go down that dangerous path as well, the question I have now is what team that currently exists would get the most out of a Trae Young led offense and not be completely butt fucked on defense.
Before I answer that question, I got not a rebuttal for James, but like a different one. So he said OG Anunoby. Let's rewind because this is what Trae Young's 5th year in the league.
I think so.
Yeah, it's like one of the first. I think it's the first year of his rookie extension.
Let's rewind 5 years. If I tell you 5 years ago that De'Aaron Fox is the player leading his team to almost 50 wins in the 3 seed in the conference and not Trae Young, would you believe me?
Good question.
I mean, I would believe you. I believe you just because I'm one of these assholes where I'm like, well, yeah, like I don't know who's on his team because like I believe one player doesn't make a team a 50-win team anyway.
No. I'm just saying like if we go out from when they first drafted, he's on the Kings, he's on the Hawks, and I tell you, he's the guy who's going to be leading this team to 50 wins, 3rd seed, and they're up 2-0 on the Warriors, and Trae Young is over here in fucking the 8th seed in the fucking desert getting blown out by 40 by the Celtics.
I'll tell you, man, I think I wasn't super high on either of them as young players, to be honest with you. Yeah, so for me, I'd be like, I guess. But I really like Fox now, though. I've really come around on De'Aaron Fox.
I've always liked De'Aaron Fox, even with the holes in his game. I always liked his attitude on the court. Like,
oh yeah,
no, I'm going to get to the rack.
Fox is a super likable player.
Yep.
Like just like a person and the way he plays. He's a super enjoyable player. I've always, his issue for me has always been
like, he carries himself.
The shooting, like, is he going to be able to shoot enough from outside? He's not like an elite playmaker like Trae Young has shown to be, right? Like there's more of like his game I like less than I like him as a person. But the reality is like, I would rather have De'Aaron Fox over Trae Young just because I probably won't have to pay him quite as much money, and he seems like someone that his teammates actually like. Because if you listen to like interviews, like Kevin Huerter basically said about Trae Young, he was like, he gets you a lot of good shots, but also like it's not always so fun playing with him, which is the type of honesty people don't usually give when they're still in the league playing against that person. They're usually like, oh yeah, Trae's a great dude. It's like if someone doesn't even say like they're a great dude and they're just like, there's like some good and bad, it's like that shit's not fun. I can tell you that. Like that is you read between the lines. All right, but what team should Trae Young go to if he were to leave the Hawks, or what team outside of the Hawks should actually be interested in Trae Young?
The Orlando Magic. I'm joking.
I was gonna say, I was like, damn man, Paolo's just no more.
The Shanghai Sharks. Get him the fuck out.
I have a bold answer that's a little bit funny right now.
Go ahead.
If it's true that Jaylen Brown wants
Lord,
out of
not
Boston.
this. Not
Hold on
this.
now. If it's true, he's from Atlanta, for one thing. For what it's worth, he's from the Atlanta area. Brown for Young, man, because the Celtics are pretty well built to withstand Young's deficiencies, man. Time Lord is a great pairing. You know, they have a lot of good defensive players. They got that kind of dual big, but both guys are agile enough
But
thing
he's
with
just gonna throw off all the chemistry. He's gonna destroy it.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I like what the Celtics are doing right now a lot better. Don't get me wrong, but
Yeah.
if Brown says I want out and I'm only willing to go to Atlanta or Houston, you know, this is in other words my dream scenario.
I'd rather
And I'm
take
the
the Houston
Hawks.
deal. I take the Houston deal before I take the Trae Young deal.
Damn. Well,
Ooh,
the Houston deal would probably have to be a 3-team deal, I think. But if
I'm
put it this
fine.
way,
I'm fine with that.
if I'm the Hawks, I would do it in an instant. I would much rather have Jaylen Brown, and I just think the Celtics have a good roster for Young. If an NBA team has to have Young, you know what I mean, which they pretty much
Right.
do.
well, yeah, he's still under contract for some more seasons. I would pick the Nets. I think the Nets, Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, Nick Claxton, whoever the hell they want to play at the two, right? Like, I think that would be a team that would make a lot of sense because it's just the Nets are actually going to be one of the few franchises that like are just okay with not actually being super good, but just being not garbage because like they don't own any of their
And
picks
but
for the
you know
next
what
while.
though? That's in that scenario, Trey get your coach fired. You get your coach fired.
Good. Who cares? Who cares? Like, here's the thing: if you're the Nets for the next 5 seasons, all you want to do is win at least 40 games. If you didn't do that, it's been a successful next 5 seasons after all of the riffraff that just happened with the super team that never really
super
did
duper
anything.
self-inflicted riffraff. Super self-inflicted.
Yeah, but just do it, run that contract down, trade him at the end of it. Maybe Mikal Bridges and Trae Young and Nick Claxton and Cam Johnson if they extend him, and a kind of a defense first, Contavious Caldwell Pope type of player
Yeah.
at the two.
Yeah.
Maybe that team is really good because like what
I like the Nets better,
sounded
man.
good.
I like the Nets better than the Celtics. Sorry to yeah,
because the Celtics have stakes, right? Like you don't want to fuck up a good thing. The Nets
Exactly.
really
That's my
aren't a
point.
good thing. So who cares if like he goes in there and it's like they can't be worse. Like their offense can't be worse replacing Spencer Dinwiddie for Trae Young, right? Like
That's
no matter what, like he
Also,
could
like,
destroy the vibes. It wouldn't matter. They would score more points.
could you imagine Trae Young in Boston like going like 2 for 10 from three to playoff in like the oh my it'll be horrible for him, the media, everybody. Like I don't want any parts of that.
Brooklyn is the answer.
All right. I think we spent too much time shit talking Trae Young. Not because I think we spent too much time shit talking Trae Young. I just think we have other things we need to talk about. So I'm pulling the plug on this. But I'm saying this, Trae Young. Maybe you should pull the plugs on some hair plugs or pull the plug on the hair that you have left.
Dude, I
right?
was just about to go there. I was just about to go like it's time. There's
It
nothing
is
up
time.
there. It's time.
There's stuff up there, but the thing is this: it's like Tom Thibodeau. It's worse when there's stuff up there, but not that much stuff. Like just
It
like
is.
stop. It does not look good. Tibbs is another person that really just needs to either, hit up a doctor or hit up a barber. But like
Dude,
what he's doing right now is
I
not
don't know
working.
what's wrong with guys like Tibbs and Stephen A. Smith. Like, cut it off. Please, you look ridiculous. You look ridiculous.
Hey man, it's a point of pride. You grow used to having hair, man. You don't want to lose it, man. Like
If your hairline starts at your ears or backwards, there's no positivity to come from having hair anymore. Cut
I know,
that
but like
shit off.
look, like one day, you have one day when you're young, you have long hair, and then 20 years later, you're looking like a snake.